welcome everybody. Thank you for spending your time with us. My name is Eileen, and together with my teammate Min, we are your facilitators for this session on troubleshooting your job search. And for those of you who are new to us, bear with us. Those who are familiar with us, allow me to introduce ourselves. We are IBF Careers Connect, and we are a career center that sits within Singapore's banking and finance sector. And we help all professionals who are looking to join the sector and or move around within the sector in these three areas. So area number one is one-to-one coaching. Our coaches, myself and Min included, help you on every aspect of your job search, all the way from choosing what jobs to apply for, tweaking your LinkedIn, improving your resume, and also troubleshooting and practicing for your interviews. That's area number one. The second resource that we offer to our candidates who work with us is industry insights. We do circulate a newsletter that highlights useful things and jobs that appear on the market, as well as organize now and then sessions where you can have the chance to talk to people who we call industry experts, industry practitioners, about specific verticals within the industry itself and where they see the industry going. So that's resource number two. And most importantly, as a career center, we also organize in-person events, and we are trying to step up this year where you can get to meet employers and recruiters in person and ask them questions that would never come out in the public spaces, that you will never be able to Google yourselves. So if you have been with us for quite some time and have never attended one of our events, we do encourage you to attend them, even if the advertised jobs do not sound relevant to where you are at. We still encourage you to come just for the chance to speak to an actual human about what the job actually entails, what that company is hiring for that may not have been advertised. So that's it. And now let's talk about what we will cover during this session today. Today's session is about troubleshooting your job search, right? And so what we are going to do is to break this down into three main areas. Number one, identify what's actually not working in your job search. And having done that, we're going to share a bit about what to prioritize in your job search, and then small changes that you can make that will improve your outcomes. And before we move on, I also wanted to remind everyone that Min and I usually like to be very interactive with our audience, and we encourage everyone to ask as many questions as you can using the Q&A box. Because the more questions you ask, the more we will be able to answer and share with you all the experience that we have in working with many other job seekers in this space in today's age. And so I just want to make a test. If you know where the Q&A box is, please just type in hello in the Q&A box just to let us know that everyone's on board. Okay. Thank you, Zihao, Sasikala, Malik, Christine, hi. Cheryl, Devender, JK, Amanda, Jess. Hi, thank you for responding. And those who are still very shy, I believe I have enabled the anonymous option in the Q&A box. So feel free to use it if you feel very shy. Usually, Min and my style is to try to answer all the questions as we can. And usually we try to also stop at the point where you ask a question to answer that particular question. So, yes. Hi, Senthil. Hi, Jack. Yeah. And so we are going to cover the first two objectives, which is to identify what's not working in your current job search. And then from there, you will also know what to prioritize and what to stop doing. Hey, job search is a funnel. Now, if you do not remember, this is the single most important slide in this whole session. So if you don't remember whatever we said before or after this session, I hope everyone can remember this slide because this forms the basis of how you are going to troubleshoot your own job search. So from an employer's perspective, every job advertisement that goes out is a funnel, and which is why we call this the job search funnel. Okay, why is important to you? So let me explain. When an employer puts out a job advertisement, right, and then assuming that 100 people apply for that job, do you think the employer is going to interview that 100%? Type yes or no. Thank you, Zihao. Yeah. Thank you, Sasikala. Yeah. Thank you, Jess. Yes. So you know that in this job search, remember this job search is a funnel and every job represents one funnel. So for example, if 100 people apply for that job, right, every employer would usually employ something to do the first round filtering. So whether that is done by using an ATS or a human actually reading through resumes, there is one level of filtering down. And we call that the screening round, right? So out of 100 people, perhaps only 60 make it to the next round. And then if the role is a technical role, you will also have what we call a technical assessment. And if 60 people go for an assessment, of course, we expect 30 to 40 people to make it through that round, right? And then when you move into the interview stage, that for roles where there are many interview stages, you will also expect that every interview stage, they are interviewing less and less people. So now, what is the most important thing for everyone to understand this is that if you understand that in every job application, you are going through a funnel, like what you see on the screen, understand that every stage of this funnel, somebody is getting eliminated. And why this is important to understand is so that if you know where you are stuck, then you will know automatically where you should focus your troubleshooting efforts. So this is the point that we wanted to make for this. And if everybody now understands at a very broad level what this job funnel is, indicate yes on the Q&A chat so that we are ready to move on. Does everyone? Okay, got it. Okay, great. So I'm ready to move on and hand the time over to Min.
All right, thanks, Eileen. Can I trouble you to move us to the next slide? I think that's the million-dollar question, but before we proceed further, I would like to check in with our audience today. How many of you are currently feeling stuck in your job search now? Right. If you're feeling stuck or have ever felt stuck in your job search, please let us know by typing yes, right? Or if you're the lucky one, you're not feeling stuck, feel free to also let us know by typing no. Okay, I see a few yeses coming through. Let's keep it coming. It'll be great to hear from each of you. Okay. All right. I think we're seeing a few yeses.
And for those who have been typing into the chat, please post your responses into the Q&A box instead. Yeah, so Hui Xuan and Sham, trouble you to type in your responses in the Q&A box. Long time no see.
Right. No, thank you for all the response indeed. Thanks for sharing your thoughts, your current feeling with us. Now, I'd like to take this opportunity to assure those of you who have typed yes that this is not an uncommon feeling. This feeling of feeling stuck, it is not uncommon. You are certainly not alone. This is, I guess, an observation, a feeling that many of our job seekers have shared with us. So the million-dollar question here is, then how do we become unstuck, right? I think that is the million-dollar question for our discussion today. Now, like what Eileen earlier alluded to allow us to properly diagnose the situation, we then need to ask the next question, which is the question on the screen here. Where are you stuck now? So based on the funnel, where are you stuck now? And allow me to paint two scenarios, okay? Scenario number one, you are feeling stuck because you are not getting any response from sending many resumes and job applications. If this is your scenario, please type in resume. If this is why you're feeling stuck, please type in resume, right? Scenario number two, you have made it to the interview round, but for some reason, it is not converting into an actual offer for you. If you are getting stuck at this stage, please type in interview into the Q&A box. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks, Navinda. You said resume. Sham, you said resume. Right? Okay. Malik, you said resume. Okay. We have JK, mostly resume, sometimes interview. All right, shows that you're getting into the interview rounds. Congrats. Matthew says interview, Davinda interview, Christine, mostly resume also, interview not so many. Yeah. So it is a very common phenomenon indeed. And these are the two most common hurdles, if I may say, during the job search process for many of our job seekers. Now, as mentioned, I think the million-dollar question today is how then do we go about getting ourselves unstuck? Now, I will proceed to talk about the first scenario, the first hurdle, i.e. you are stuck at the resume stage because you have been sending out your resumes to many job applications. However, the response was just not so forthcoming. Now, if this applies to you, may I ask you if you may identify with any of such scenarios? Yeah. From 1 to 5. Yeah. How many of them resonates with you? How many of them do you identify yourself with? You can put in as many as you want. Number 1, I've applied for every role that I can find. Number 2, I've sent out hundreds of resumes. Number 3, I've used AI to create my resume. So it must be a good resume, right? So why is it the case that I'm still not getting any response? Number 4, a recruiter told me my resume looks okay. So again, the question there is, if my resume looks okay, why am I not getting any response? And then number 5, I have even applied for roles where I exceeded the requirements. So again, if this sounds like you, please let us know by putting in the number. You can put in as many numbers as you want. Yeah. All right. Thanks. Sasikala, 1 and 5. Sham, 1 and 2. Let's keep it coming. Jack, 3 and 4. Christine, 1, 3, 5. Cheryl, all. Thank you. Thanks for sharing with us. Yeah. All right. PF, 1, 2, 4, 5. Just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So these are pretty common scenarios, isn't it? Yeah. Very common situations. Matthew, 1, 2, 5. Davinda, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as well. Well, I'm glad to know that we are picking up scenarios that you can resonate with. Yeah. So as many of you can see, the sense of feeling stuck at the resume stage can play out in many different ways, isn't it? Yeah. But if we're going to distill down to the core of the problem, if we're going to distill down to the key issue over here, typically, I like to condense it to 3 core issues. There are typically only 3 reasons why people are not able to progress down the job search funnel from here. And you're getting stuck at this orange-yellow level. And unfortunately, you're not able to progress further down to the interview stage. Yeah. So as mentioned, there are typically 3 reasons. Yeah, I'll go through each one. The first one is that the job did not exist, or the job may have been removed after you've applied for the job. And hence, that's the reason why you're not hearing back or you're not being invited back for any interviews. Now, barring that, if the job is confirmed to be in existence, the second reason why you are not progressing down the funnel is that you are actually not a good fit for the job, but you did not realize it. Yeah. And thirdly, the third reason is that you fit the job, you are a good fit for the job. However, your resume is not communicating your relevance. So 3 key reasons, we'll go through them. Next slide, please. Okay, thanks. So now that you've heard from me the 3 core reasons why you're not able to further progress down the funnel, I think what we like to stress here is that if you're at this stage of the job search process, what you need to focus on is your relevance. The key principle here is that you need to focus on your relevance. That is to say, even before you start sending out your job applications and sending out your resumes, the first question you need to ask yourself is that, am I a good fit for the job? Yeah. Am I a good fit for the job? Now, how do we determine if we are going to be a good fit for the job that we wish to apply to? Yeah. The test that we like to apply here, the test that we suggest for our job seekers to apply here is what I term as the 70% test, right? Now, what do I mean by the 70% test? That is to say, if you are interested in the job, please assess the JD of the role very, very carefully. You would only be a good fit for the role if you meet at least 70% of the hard skills criteria. 70% of the hard skill criteria. So if you do not meet at least 70% of the hard skill criteria, what does that mean? That means that there are possibly a pool of candidates out there who would be a better fit for the job than you. Then clearly, they are going to advance down the funnel much faster than you do. So you're up for competition, right? So 70% is the minimum that we suggest in filtering out whether you are a good fit for the job that you intend to apply to. Yeah. If you are an 80% fit, 90% fit, even better. But the minimum that we propose is a minimum of at least 70% fit. Now, the other emphasis here is hard skills. What do we mean by hard skills? What exactly is hard skills? Okay, let me try to use a few examples. I have with me a few JDs in front of me. Okay, so I'm going to use one of them. This says this role, this JD, is a JD of a VP role in group compliance. Now, I'm going to go through the requirements, yeah, the criteria required for candidate for this role. The first one says a minimum of 10 years experience in financial institutions in compliance. Yeah, this is a hard criteria. All right, this is a hard criteria. The next requirement.
Sorry to jump in, but do you want to go point by point, ask the audience whether they think it's hard skill or not?
Okay, yeah, I think that would be interesting. Yeah.
Okay, if so as Min goes through the every bullet point, she's gonna ask whether you think it's hard skill or not, and you just indicate yes or no.
Okay, so let us do this, Elaine, and everybody in our audience, please be welcome to participate. Yeah. So I've already given you the answer for one. Yeah. The first criteria, the first requirement is a minimum experience of 10 years in financial industry in a compliance department. That is a hard skill. Now, the next requirement in this JD reads, a robust understanding of Singapore regulatory requirements and best practice related to financial crime, AML, CFT, anti-bribery, corruption, FATCA. Is this a hard skill or a soft skill in your opinion? Would you put in either hard or soft in the Q&A box. Loy, I think you are asking me to flash the resume on the screen. I'm afraid I'm not able to do that because this carries the name of the institution. So I'm sorry I can't.
I can type it out in the chat box, Min. So as you read, I'll type it out.
Okay, all right. But thanks for the replies. I think you got me. This is a hard skill indeed. This requirement for a robust understanding of Singapore regulatory requirements and best practice relating to financial crime, AML, CFT, is a hard skill, right? Now, what about the next one? Self-motivated individual with a strong work ethic, ability to multitask, and collaborative skill to work and engage with a larger Singapore compliance team. Is this a hard skill or soft skill? Please type in hard or soft in the Q&A box. Let me repeat. Self-motivated individual with a strong work ethic, ability to multitask, and collaborative skills to work and engage within a larger compliance team. Thank you, PF. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you, Amanda. Indeed, this is a soft skill. So I'm hoping that you're starting to see the difference between hard skill and soft skill. I have another JD with me. This is a different JD altogether. This JD reads Private Banking Wealth Advisor for North Asia. Okay, what about this one? This says deep understanding of financial markets, investment strategies, and wealth planning principles. Is this hard skill or soft skill? Deep understanding of financial markets, investment strategies, and wealth planning principles. Hard skill or soft skill? Thanks, Asikala. Thanks, Cheryl. Yeah. Zihao, thank you, Devenda. Hard skill. Yeah, you guys are getting a hang of this. Thank you. Yeah, this is indeed a hard skill. Okay, last one. What about this? Last one. Ability to work independently and as part of a team. Ability to work independently and as part of a team. Soft skill, thanks, Cheryl. And indeed, it is a soft skill. Yeah. So as mentioned, I hope everybody is starting to see the difference between hard skill and soft skill and apply the principle here. Do apply the principle here. The test is a 70% test. We encourage you to only apply for jobs where it is a 70% fit of your hard skills to that of what is required on the JD. All right. Now that is the first. Moving on. Yeah. Customize for each role. What does it mean? All right. So now that you know which job to apply to, right? Now it is very important to apply for the right job, right? Because otherwise you're facing yourself up to immense competition from people who may be better qualified than you. Okay. But now that you determine that you're at least a 70% fit and a good candidate for the role and you're going to start applying for the job, the next thing you want to take note of is you need to communicate your relevance. The principle here is to focus on your relevance, and hence you need to communicate your relevance to the hiring manager so that they see you as a good fit. So what does that mean? It means that in your resume, you should be reflecting the keywords on the JD, right? So some of the keywords that we have discussed earlier for the compliance role, the keywords will be AML, yeah, CFT. These are keywords. And if you have minimum 10 years of experience, please reflect 10 years of experience on your resume. Yeah. Do not simply say that you have compliance experience or you have banking experience. It is important to reflect the keywords on your resume so that you come across as a good fit to the hiring manager and to enable the ATS to filter you up for shortlisting, right? Okay, so that's on this point. Okay, now this is an interesting one. This is my third point. My last point before I move it back to Eileen for her to take us through the second hurdle. Now this is an interesting point, demand versus supply. Now what do we mean by demand versus supply, right? Now, I think if I take a step back, I think among the situation number 1 to 5, the fifth one says, I have exceeded the requirements and yet I'm still not getting any response. Now, a typical situation would be like that, I have 20 years of experience and I am very, very sure that I'm able to do the job of an analyst that requires only 3 years of experience. So the question here is that the JD is looking for an analyst role with 3 years of experience. I am a practitioner with 20 years of experience. I am very, very confident that I'm a good fit for the role because I can certainly perform what is required of me. The big question here is, am I indeed a good fit for the role? Yeah. What do you think? Does anybody wish to volunteer and answer? Am I a good fit for the role simply because I have 20 years of experience and I can most certainly do the job, and in spite of the fact that the JD is only looking for somebody with 3 years experience? Does anybody wish to volunteer and answer? Please feel free to type in the Q&A box. JK wishes to speak. Yeah. Eileen, can we allow him to unmute?
Yes, let me wait. Let me check. Yeah, okay. JK, I have allowed you to talk. Please see if you can speak.
Yeah.
Yes,
Would you like to
can you
volunteer
hear
and
me?
answer? Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, thank you. And data analytics is actually relatively new. Some people take experience in statistics as data analytics experience, but the practice of data analytics is relatively. So sometimes in job applications, they will be asking for 10 years experience in data analytics, when actually, I don't know exactly how many years, but when actually nobody has 10 years experience in data analytics.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that, JK. So you're relating an experience whereby the JD is looking for 10 years of experience, but in very, very new fields, there's hardly anybody with 10 years of experience. Now, thank you for that. That is indeed quite a situation. But back to this situation here, do you think somebody with 10 years, somebody who honestly have 10 years of experience or even more, 20 years of experience, will be a good fit for a role that is looking for 3 years of experience? Okay.
The audience can type yes, good fit, or no, not good fit.
It depends on the hiring manager. The hiring manager is not looking for someone kind of thing.
Okay.
He or she just wants someone who will do some
Yeah. Thanks,
important
JK.
stuff.
Okay.
Then the person is overqualified.
Thanks, JK. We're going to mute you now. So we're going to come back to focus on the responses from the Q&A. Yeah. Yeah. Some of you said, no, not a good fit. Yeah. And indeed, it is the case that it is not necessarily a good fit. In fact, the answer here is it depends. It depends. It depends on the situation, right? Now, what is the situation? If it is a case that a team manager has assessed his team dynamics accordingly and determined that his demand is only for that of a 3-year experienced analyst, and this demand can be matched up by a corresponding supply of candidates that match that requirement, there is actually no need for him to look out for a senior candidate of 20 years of experience, in spite of the fact that you're confident you can do the job. Yeah. So it is the case, just like what JK was alluding to earlier, if there is a matching of a demand and supply situation, there is no incentive for the hiring manager to look beyond that. Okay? So truly the answer to this question is it depends. Yeah. So let us not assume that simply by applying for a job that we are perhaps exceeding the requirement for, we are a shoe-in for being invited to the interview stage. It's not necessarily the case. Yeah. So hopefully I address some of you who may have these questions in your mind, and that was situation number 5 that we have listed earlier. Okay. All right. I think we have more or less digest on this number 1 hurdle where you are feeling stuck at the resume stage. I'm going to pass the time back to Eileen, who can take us through the second hurdle.
Okay, and before we move on to the second hurdle, we want to explain this segment in a bit more detail because someone in the chat had this very interesting question. What if 90% of the job listings, I do not have even 70% of the skills that require? Means I can only apply 10%. So that's the question. And then, and related to this, some of you have offered very useful perspectives. If you have no relevant job experience but only transferable skill sets, how do you convince the hiring manager? Or if you have, or the job description is only relevant, or rather the job description is you have no relevant experience, but you have self-studied courses. Okay, so I'm going to share my take and I'm going to ask Min for her take as well for this. So generally, remember at the beginning, we asked how many of you are stuck in that stage where you are sending out hundreds of resumes and not getting any response. So one key reason that Min has shared is that if you're applying for a job where you don't even qualify for the requirements, your chances of progressing to the next stage and securing an interview from it is very low. So the question to ask yourself is, if you know that the job description has got 10 bullet points and you only meet 3 of them, and of the 3 that you meet is actually the soft skills, you can work in a team, you can work independently. The question you really want to ask yourself is it still worth my time to apply for that job? And number 2, if I do decide that it is worth my time to apply for that job, the next question you want to ask yourself is, if I'm the employer, will I look at this resume and decide that I want to grant this person an interview to the next stage? Min, I'm leaving you to decide if you want to share anything to this.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting scenario that has been painted out by our audience. And I think a fairly common one as well. And I like to go back to the basis of demand and supply. Demand and supply. So again, it's a question of who am I up against, right? Who am I up against? So if I am only able to offer my soft skills, whereas there is a pool of candidates out there who can offer both, who can offer his or her relevance both in terms of soft skills as well as hard skills, then clearly it is the case that I will probably be filtered out the funnel because there is somebody else who is a stronger fit than me. Yeah. I hope that answers the question. And the same for transferable skills. Yeah. So where transferable skills are relevant, or let me put it this way, transferable skills are useful. However, if I am up against a pool of candidates who have solid hard skills as well as the soft skills that are relevant to the job, then the transferable skills will clearly take second place on a relative basis. The converse is also true. The converse is also true. Yeah. In a very high demand role, in a very high demand job function, whereby there are not much supply of eligible talents, right? Then it will be the case that the hiring manager will find it very, very difficult, yeah, to find that ideal candidate with the kind of hard skills and soft skills that they're looking for. In that scenario, your transferable skills will come into play as very, very useful. Yeah. I hope that gives you, that gives that kind of answer your questions and give you another perspective.
Thank you, Min. And there are some other, let me look through. There are some other interesting responses. So in this area, why we are sharing about the principle of demand versus supply and having a minimum 70% is really to make your job search more efficient. The underlying principle of like focusing on your relevance is really about find the playing field where you stand a fair fighting chance. Right? So if you know that a job, for example, in answer to Sham's question, I like what Jack said. Years of experience, number one, does not equate to competence. That's a really good point. So thank you for that. And then somebody else said something like, okay, Zihao, I will answer your question later. Let me relate this back to Sham's question. So if we go by this logic that the job requires only 3 years of experience, it probably also means that older workers with many years of relevant experience will find it hard to fit into the role. So for this, this is a very common question we get from the people that we work with. And the answer is always, it depends. So for example, if the outfit, the company that you are applying for is one, and this you can generally tell by either going through your networks or looking via Glassdoor or using LinkedIn to do that search, you can generally tell about the demographic outfit of an employer or even a specific team that you're applying for. So generally, when the JD is asking for someone with 3 years experience, a lot of scenarios can contribute to this. So for example, scenario 1 can be hiring manager is very young to start with. So as we understand, hiring manager, not every younger hiring manager can handle hiring an older staff. It's a hard truth, but nevertheless, it is what we see happening in the market. And scenario number 2 could be the whole team, not just the hiring manager, is extremely young and they are in that space of people with 10 years experience or less. And if you talk to people in the startup space, you will probably hear things like, oh, everybody in this whole startup, which is very small to begin with, is in their mid-30s, and the oldest person in that company is 40 years old. So if you have that kind of scenario, why we said your response, it always depends on the whole context, right? So if you're faced with that kind of scenario and if you're not in that age group of that team, the question to ask yourself is this a role you want to apply for? And how do you think you stack up against the competition?
Yeah, I think well said, Eileen. Yeah, thanks for summarizing it. So the point is team dynamics is going to play a part. Yeah, like it or not, it does play a part. It's not necessary put out there on the JD, but it does explain why sometimes our application just doesn't seem to progress down the channel, down the funnel, even though we do come across as an absolutely credible candidate.
Thank you, Min. And the reason why we emphasize this thing about efficiency and how if you don't apply, I mean, if you stick to jobs where you have a very strong fit, the rest of your time can actually be spent on the more important parts of job search, which is networking and actually talking to people and increasing your network so that you can get more job leads. So that is where we're coming from versus spending a lot of your time focusing on your resume, applying for jobs where you are the level of your fit is not very high. You are really wasting your time there. So from this efficiency perspective, we'd like you to reconsider your job search. And of course, if you are working with a coach already, do talk this over with your coach. And if you don't already have a coach, please do write with us to work one-on-one with a coach. By the way, we are free for all Singaporeans and PRs, just so that everyone here knows. And then to answer Zihao's question, thank you for that. How much to customize each resume, especially if you are applying for roles with similar JD? Generally, for example, if you are applying for, I'm going to ask Min to share her perspective because I always believe that the audience benefits when we share two different perspectives, right? And generally, we ask people to customize each for each role, but it doesn't mean that you have to spend 5 hours customizing for every role that you send out. I'm going to give you two perspectives that you can think through. Number one, you apply, you have a version of one resume for a job family. Say, for example, you are applying for data analyst roles versus business analyst roles. So these are what we call two baskets of roles. You need to have two master versions of resumes for those. And within a data analyst role, then you make small tweaks here and there. So if a company specifies that Python or SQL is very important, then you put it higher up in your resume and so on and so forth. And similarly for business analysts, if being able to use tools like Jira is important, then similarly that. So from that perspective, if you follow this idea of applying for broad job families where data analyst is one family, business analyst is another family, the amount of customization should not take you very long. And to give everybody some context, if you are new to customizing, your first customization may take you 2 man days. And then in the old days, where we got very good at customizing resumes for every job, the fastest we could do it based on the people we work with is about 2 hours for one job application. However, and also the good news is today, if you have AI can make it a lot faster for you. So that's one thing. And I remember somebody further up in the chat also shared that when Min was going through the previous slide, that some of you have had your resume okayed by a recruiter and or another coach. So the thing is, you see, if you give your resume to someone without a matching job description, many times that person reading a resume on its own is going to say, oh, it looks okay, I don't see what's wrong with you. Or, and you only know whether your resume is actually working if you show it to somebody together with the job description. Then the person you're asking, whether it's an AI or a coach or a friend, can tell you, oh, I can see now why you're not a good fit or things that you can tweak. So I hope this helps our audience here today. And if you've got even more questions, please feel free to type in the Q&A box and we're happy to answer them. Yeah.
Yep. But to your point, Eileen, I totally agree with you. And this is what I recommend my job seekers to do as well. Because some of us are clearly good candidates for more than one family of job functions, right? You could be a very competent financial analyst and you could be qualified for a business manager role at the same time. And the way to go about it is really have two master set of resumes. Yeah, one for each family of job, one for the business analyst role and another for the business manager role. Yeah, this will help you a lot in terms of efficiency, so you don't have to over customize each time.
And also, I hope the rough, the time duration benchmarks that I gave, 2 days for the first timer, and then 2 hours for a season, and possibly shorter if you are very experienced with AI and all that. If you're still taking drastically more than these guidelines and you think you need help, working with a coach on your efficiency when it comes to customizing resumes, come and have a chat with us. Yeah. All right. So okay, I'm ready to move on to the next slide, which is let's talk about, so just to round up before we move to hurdle number 2. Hurdle number 1 was when you're sending out resumes, and you're not getting any response. You're not getting called out for technical assessments. You're not getting called out for interviews. And our encouragement to all of you is focus your efforts on jobs that you are very, very good fit for. And then spend the rest of your time talking to people and extending your own professional network. So now we are moving on to hurdle number 2, which is you are already receiving interviews consistently and you're just getting stuck there and you don't progress to offers. Can we have a indication in the Q&A chat how many of you are in this situation right now? So type now. Thank you, JK, sometimes. Thank you, Cheryl. And the next question, so if the rest are not answering, I'm assuming that you're still thinking about your answer. And the next question that I have interview for not many. Okay, for those of you who have got interviews but are not getting as many interviews as you expect, here's a few ways for you to focus your efforts. So number 1, if you're applying to a lot of jobs and you're not even getting any response at all, so that is an indication to you that you need to relook at the kind of jobs that you're applying for, providing that job even exists in the first place, right? So that is task number 1. And the second task is if you're applying and then you're getting some interviews but not a lot, then you can safely say, okay, maybe I have to tweak some of my resumes, but not so much as the scenario number 1, which is I'm applying for 100 jobs a month and I'm still not getting a response. Okay, so that's scenario number 2. So scenario number 3 is if you're constantly getting interviews and just not able to convert them, then scenario number 3 is where you don't actually have to spend any more time on your resume. Okay, so I hope this clarifies for everyone in terms of where you should spend your time. And to answer JK's question, okay, this is something that we observe very much. Hiring manager may be older, but he wants cheap grads. So then the next question that we have to ask ourselves as job seekers is this. If my plan A job is not in abundance, if there are really just not enough plan A jobs in the market, and we know this is happening for a lot of people because many of the plan A jobs don't even exist anymore. Okay, and there are many people that we see who have been let go from plan A jobs, who are still looking for plan A jobs, but they are either dwindling or do not exist anymore. And we all know this for a fact because it's not a secret that in banking, there is a lot of restructuring and offshoring, and this is ongoing all the time. So if you are in a plan or you were in a plan A job and you know that that particular job function has always been a good choice for offshoring, then the signal to you is start thinking about a plan B option or plan C, plan D. Okay. Christine, thank you. Interview, but not many. And some interviewers were just fishing for information. Yeah, for real. And so this is where we do have the classical way that we always advise our candidates, right, is that number 1, for phone screens, you will know phone screens is a very good way to tell whether the job is a real role or not. Because sometimes you can tell whether a recruiter calling you is fishing for information if, number 1, they call you and they tell you that they are not even based in Singapore. So that's red flag number 1. Number 2, if they call you today and ask you to attend an interview tomorrow. So that again is red flag number 2. these are two very telltale signs that to look out for, because in this scenario, because the job may not even be there at all, and the recruiter is just fishing for information. And there are also many cases where in the process of an interview, a candidate is asked to submit an entire proposal for marketing a certain product. That happens too. And so if you come across a recruiter who fulfills those two red flags, and you are wondering whether to go through that call or not, my suggestion, at least for me, is take it as a free practice for yourself. You're practicing with a live audience, but expect no outcome from it. I mean, that is just my personal choice. So yeah. So to the person who says no call, go back and revisit the type of roles that you're applying for, re-examine the percentage of your fit for those roles. And if you need help identifying the fit, please come and see one of us. Yeah. So, and then back to this, back to what we're doing now. We're looking at, if you keep interviewing, but you don't progress to offers, there are a lot of things that can go wrong in the interview itself. So let's talk about them. Okay, what do you think? But before that, I want to hear from our audience. What do you think is hindering you in your interviews? Please type your response in the Q&A box.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to hear this one from our audience.
Yeah. Oh, there are no responses.
I think everybody is being a bit reserved on this one. Jess said haha in the chat box.
Okay.
Maybe she's reluctant to tell us.
Okay. And the thing is, let me share some things. Many people walk away from bad interview experiences, saying that the hiring manager only wants someone young, I'm too old, and too this, too that. The truth is, we don't actually know. And the only time that you know for sure that you have been eliminated due to ageism is if you've been interviewing a few rounds very close to an offer already, and in fact they are about to offer you and they've told you, and then they ask this question, actually, how old are you? And then after that, if the link goes dead, that is about the only time that we have encountered that, that is classified as very strong evidence for ageism. Other than that, what I want to encourage everyone is, yes, if we don't get through an interview, of course, it's very easy for us to think, okay, maybe I was too old or whatever. And the thing is, having that mentality hurts you, not the employer, not the interviewer, because it then doesn't help you adopt a more productive method for your job search. So for example, if you really think that, okay, I'm really too old for outfits like Shopee, then so my encouragement to you then is, if I really think I'm too old for an outfit like Shopee, then why don't I look for more mature organizations where I know that they hire people in my age group? And I can assure you this information can be found from LinkedIn. Having breaks. Thank you for sharing, Sasikala. Yes, having a career break. Ego. Yeah. Matthew, I'm going to need more explanation for ego. Is it the interviewer's ego, or I assume it's the interviewer's ego? And no interview yet. Okay, thank you, Malik, for sharing. Interviewed twice. Then told that some older staff have problems working with younger colleagues. Okay, so to me, that's a very clear cut. They are already telling you that your demographic does not fit them, and which to me is not actually a bad thing, because if they are already telling you this during the interview, it just shows you that they are aware of the problem, but they haven't found a way around it. So it may not be a good thing for you to advance in that scenario anyway. So that's something. Sudden issue with budget limit in hiring or hire internally. Cheryl, thank you for sharing this. This has happened to quite a few candidates that we work with. Very common and often happens around March and April.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if this happens to you, our suggestion is don't overthink. Yeah, just move on from there. Right?
Yeah.
There's nothing you can, this is not within your control at all. Yeah.
Yeah. And to anonymous, yes, they will ask for your birth date. Now, I think birth date is a bit illegal, but they will ask when you graduate. And the thing to there is no way to overcome that because our age is something that we cannot change. So the encouragement that I have for everyone here is that just keep looking. If this employer discriminates, there's nothing we can do. And we just need to keep looking. Yeah, they asked about career gap. Thank you for that. For career gap, we do have many ways of dealing with it, and it is all about the way you are describing your career gap. So we'll talk more about that. And to move on, sometimes I want to, before we talk about reasons why you're stuck in the interview stage, right? It's because sometimes the reason is not you. So, which is why Min was encouraging everyone just that after you interview, and regardless of what they say to you, just move on after the interview. It hurts only yourself if you go home and then spend a week or more fuming over why they said they preferred a younger or older colleague. It really doesn't help yourself. And so, and the next thing is for career gap, right? The thing is, many people who come back to the workforce from a career gap, put the career gap up front, and then you make it the focus. Okay, what I mean by that is this. For example, if it's very common for people with career gaps to say this. If the interviewer asks, "Okay, tell me about yourself," it's very common for a career gap person to say something like this. Oh, okay, I'm so and so. For the last 10 years, I've been at home providing caregiving, blah, blah, blah. And then before that, I was doing this. And I had no choice because a family member was blah, blah, blah. And then I took a career gap. And then now I'm coming back. I'm hope to be given a chance to work in this role. Now, this kind of framing does not help you at all for a career gap because straight out, you're already telling the interviewer that you are a person who is somehow inferior to the other candidates out there, when this may not actually be the case. There are many people who have come back from career gaps and they are equally, if not more competent than the other competitors. So again, if you need help with framing a career gap, come work with our coaches. Yeah. And okay, 10-year series cramming. Okay, yeah. So I wanted to ask everyone whether you're familiar. Okay, if you're familiar with what 10-year series is, can you type yes in the Q&A?
Oh, this is definitely a yes for me.
Thank you, Zihao. Who else is familiar? I don't see any responses. Yes, okay. Thank you, Sasikala. Yes, 10-year series. No, that did not show your age. I think it is still a thing. Right. Okay. So for those of you who may not be familiar with Singapore's education system, the whole concept of 10-year series is that for every national exam that we have, for example, the GCE A levels or O levels, there is such a thing called 10-year series in the market. Now, what happens is that publishers always collect the last 10 years worth of the national exam questions together with model answers, and they sell these on the open market. And so when we compare this to what's happening in the interview, in an interview is, in our experience, is like the national exam. And in recent years, we have seen too many of our candidates do this, especially with AI. Okay, and before I describe what's happening with AI, can I ask our audience, how many of you have an AI that you work with? Type yes or no. Okay, not at the moment. Okay, thank you for that. Yes, yes. Okay, and now here's what happens, what I mean by 10-year series cramming. So now today, not for job search resume, thank you for that. So now what happens is that many people who are already working with AI, and by the way, I'm very much a fan of AI, but just not inappropriate AI use. So for example, in the interview stage, if you get an interview for a company, the first thing many people do who are friends with their own AIs is they go to the AI and they key in this. I'm going for an interview with ABC company. Please help me come up with a list of likely questions that the interviewer may ask and help me script my answers. Now, I want to ask our audience, how many of you have done this? Or how many of you have heard your friends doing this? Thank you, Christine. Right. So what happens with this 10-year series cramming concepts, right, is that it removes the whole focus. Now, first off, we have to understand interviews are essentially chemistry tests. Provided the job is already there and provided, so that means that the job is not going to be cut due to budget change and all that. Provided the job is already there and you've been called for an interview. So our assumption here is that you are already a good fit for the role. Now, what happens during that whole interview then becomes, at its very essence, a chemistry test. It's a chemistry test between you and the interviewer, how much they like you. And why I say this is because many people are focusing too much on an AI-generated response and thus failing the chemistry test. So what happens when you use the AI like a 10-year series cramming partner and you ask AI to come up with a whole bunch of questions? The next thing that many people do at that stage is to then spend all their time during interview preparation memorizing every answer given by the AI. So, and if you have been doing this, no need to tell us, but feel free to tell us if you have been doing this. And if you're asking the AI to give you answers, my question to you is, can the AI give you all the possible questions that an interviewer might possibly ask? Yes or no? Thank you, Christine. Very common. Yes, indeed. Yes. So you see, what's happening here is that, so bear in mind, I am a big fan of AI myself. I use it a lot. But what happens during the interview stage that I see a lot of people run into problems is that you spend so much time getting the AI to come up with all these questions. And then you spend all your time, your mind space and your focusing on cramming those answers and trying to memorize a script. And in some cases, you may think that in a virtual interview, it is okay because you're reading off a script and you think the interviewer cannot tell. Okay, and then if you are going for an in-person interview, you will just find yourself very stressed out going through these scripts and memorizing the scripts. Now, what this whole thing does to you is that it detracts you from the main goal, which is to sell yourself. And believe it or not, if you read out an AI script, your friends can tell that it's AI generated. I can tell. And if we can tell, the employers can tell. And the danger therein is that you are going to sound like every other candidate who's been spending time with the AI partner. So So our suggestion is that to avoid going into this rabbit hole where the more questions you ask the AI, the more questions it will design for you, and the more model answers you will have to cram. Focus on your personal brand. In effect, for every interview, there are only a few key questions that you really have to be very clear about. The first question is, what do you bring to the role? And this you can, if you feel you're not a very good communicator, you can ask the AI to, you can give AI a draft and ask AI to polish up for you. But ultimately, if you know that if you are very clear about your own personal brand, what is it you really offer, chances are your passion, your entire conviction, your entire energy, your vibe, call it what you will, if you're in the generation that uses the word vibe, so when you are very clear about what you offer in the role, your vibe will amplify itself fair enough during an interview. And therefore, that's how people pass the chemistry test during an interview. Conversely, when you spend all your time stressing out over memorizing a model answer from AI, you do risk sounding very inauthentic. Yeah. Min, do you have any examples to share about
I
this AI
recall,
scripting?
yeah, I recall that there was a hiring manager who talked to me about a recent interview that he conducted. So he met the candidate for the very first time. This is the first round interview. Candidate was clearly very, very excited because, after applying for jobs for so long, she's finally getting an interview in a function that she is, in her words, it's her dream job, it's the kind of job that she is really looking to do. So and she's enthusiastic about it, right? And as excited as she is, she spent a few days working with the AI on generating her scripts for likely interview questions. And clearly what she did on the actual day of the interview was that she put up, she bring up the script on her screen, and true enough, the interviewer asked the questions, and there she was reading off the script. And it was very unfortunate because the interviewer could tell right away that she was doing so, because it was clear she was not making eye contact with him, but she was looking into the screen all the time. Yeah, so it was obvious. And even though she made a lot of preparation and did a lot of work, but unfortunately she was caught out because of that. Yeah. Yeah. So what I'm trying to point here is that when you do that, the interviewer can tell. Long and short of it.
Yeah. And the other risk is also if you work with AI long enough, you realize that AI generates a lot of unnecessary words that sound very bombastic, but they don't actually convey any clear value proposition. So this you have to be aware yourself because if you use too much AI speak, especially in emails or your resumes or even in Horace, your spoken verbal answer to tell me about yourself, you can risk looking very, very inauthentic and lose out on the chemistry front, right? And so now that we've talked about this, right, in the space of interview itself, once you're in the interview stage, there are a lot of different scenarios and different types of interviews that you can pass or fail the interview, which we will not cover here. But we wanted to bring out this point about focusing on your brand because we felt that in light of the advancement of AI, a lot of our candidates are getting stuck here, being too invested in AI and forgetting about cultivating an attractive personal brand. Okay? And so we have actually covered the two key hurdles, which is if you're stuck in sending out resumes and not getting a response. And the second hurdle that you face is if you're already in interviews, what can you do if you're stuck? And we have also covered some simple ideas, and this slide will then capture what are the simple changes that you can make, right? So if you're stuck at the top part of the funnel, the basic idea is to focus on your relevance. And then and it is so important to start from 90% if possible. The more the job is the more attractive the job is, then the higher the percentage that you actually have to start with in order to assure that you have a fair fighting chance of landing that role. So that's one thing, hard skill keywords. So, and the time that you free up from only focusing on your relevant roles can be better used by you actually talking to people either via LinkedIn or talking to people in your social and or professional circles, because that's where leads come from. Okay, and then on the interview side, if you're stuck in the interview and you are sure that the job actually exists and you are a good fit in all these and you're failing to convert, then the only the first thing to do is always to ask yourself, what brand are you actually selling? What is it that you bring to the table? And very importantly, many people get so focused on using AI to generate all those questions that they forget to actually answer the question, what made you so interested in that company and what really interests you about that job? So you'll be surprised, we've worked with a lot of people. That's very fun. Okay. You'll be surprised, we've worked with a lot of people who aren't able to even answer the question, why do you want that job? What is it about that job that's so interesting? And why do you want to work for that company in the first place? Because curiosity, some of the things that will really increase your chemistry during an interview is curiosity. If you're not even curious about that job, this sends a very strong vibe to the interviewer. And if your only reason that you want that job is that it pays well, or you just want a job, believe us, the interviewer can feel that vibe from you. Yeah. And so this is all that we have for you today. I'm aware of time, and final encouragement to everyone is that in order not to waste any more of your time, your emotional mind space, obsessing over every application or rejection or interview, every time after you send an application, after you go for an interview, just move on. Don't think about that anymore and stop obsessing over every application. Yeah. So, and Jess, no, please don't close your eyes during the interview in person. It just makes you look very odd. Thank you for sharing that with us.
And also, you do want to make eye contact, don't you?
Yeah.
That's extremely important.
And okay, now that we are moving on to, you can feel free to ask us any questions now. And while you're asking us questions, I also like to invite our audience to help us to complete a poll, because we run these workshops at least once every 1 or 2 months, and we would like your feedback to improve our workshops. Okay, are we ready to launch? Okay, so while the poll is launching, I'm going to answer the questions that are coming in. Okay. Question from Hui Xuan. Can I submit my testimony from my last employment superior together with your CV? Yes, you should. It's very powerful. Yeah. And if you are, if you're applying for a role that is advertised on LinkedIn, it is also very powerful if you can get your last employer to give you a recommendation on LinkedIn as well. Yep. And Christine, after you have had your first interview, do we need to follow up if there's no news after that? If yes, after how long we need to follow up? 2 weeks. Okay. For me, I'm going to ask for Min's response after I give mine. For me, I don't have a hard and fast rule. It's nice to follow up. I'll probably give it 2 weeks and send one email. Other than that, I will not chase. But there is really no hard and fast rule, because for me, in my past experience, there was an interview that I applied for, and I didn't bother to send any follow-up email. And I thought that it was a failed interview, but I had a call from the hiring manager 2 months after that offering me the job, because the hiring manager herself had resigned and changed company and wanted me at her new company. So that's sharing for everyone. And Min, want to hear your views on this.
I think likewise for me, I don't really have hard and fast rules for this. But I would say that sending a thank you note is a good way of helping them keep you on their mind, yeah, to help them remember you. And also, if this is a job that you are particularly keen on, you like the job very much and you thought the interview went very, very well, why not? Yeah, it doesn't cost a penny to send a thank you note. So I would say do it. Yeah, doesn't hurt. Yeah.
Thank you, JK. I'm sharing this slide. You can either scan the QR code or email us at the email address. It will lead you to the same thing. Hui Xuan, okay, understand about that. Your previous boss is from China. That's fine. If she's happy to give you a testimony, I will always include it with your resume. I think it's a good idea. Very welcome, Christine. Do we have any other questions?
I'm checking the chat box. I think we are good.
My other teammate, Sally, has posted a link in the chat. So if you wish, you can also click on that link. Thank you, Sally.
Feel free to connect with us at our email or through the form. We'd love to talk to you.
Yes, and feel free to connect with us via LinkedIn as well. Welcome,
Thank you.
Jen. I noticed that not everyone has responded. So can I ask for those who are still here to please respond to our feedback? It's for us to improve. So
Okay. I think we've got everybody now. Thank you very much for your feedback. Yeah.
thank you so much, everyone. So for those of you who are already with coaches, you're fine and good. Those who are not, look forward to seeing you in our coaching community and wishing you all the very best in your job search and wishing you a great rest of the week.